Good morning. So what is this series exactly? Well, after my dozen or so times of playing through the Pirate101 story, I realized I haven't really ever read the dialogue. Sure, I know major plot points, but I was never enriched by all the dialogue and story this game has to offer. So that is what we're doing today, and for the next few months. I started a new privateer with the explicit purpose to read all the dialogue of the main story and truly learn why it is what we do. Sit back, relax, as we head into the story of Pirate101, experiencing the nuances you may have overlooked, and endure potential side rants about the relevance to today's world. If you like this format, please consider subscribing, commenting, and liking to show me you're enthralled by the Pirate101 story like I've been. Without further ado, let's sit by the fire and get started. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the I Started a Privateer to read all the dialogue in Pirate101 series. This is book 14, the second to last book in Arc 1, and it covers the entirety of Aquila. So we do have a lot to get through. So let's get started. So we start Aquila by first going to Cortez, who had just won his civil war with Conquista, and so now he controls all the vortexes and skyways that are under the Conquistan Empire's control. And he gives us permission to travel to Aquila while he starts to tell us of a trouble within the Holy Church. And then the Queen Eleanor stops it before it becomes a whole thing, which I think it would have been cool to go more into that and develop that a little bit more, because I think Cortez is the strongest part of this game. But anyways, we land in Nova Aquila and go to speak to Autolycus. So we land in Nova Aquila and go to speak to Autolycus, who tells us that Argos' shield bearer was kidnapped by the vultures. So we go pick him up from the vultures, and his name is Nestor, tells us that it's been a few weeks since he's seen Argos and that we should consult the Oracle of Delphos. A guard of the Oracle tells us that the harpies nearby have been clouding the Oracle's judgment, so we need to go clear those harpies out, which means just kill them. It's a little defeat and collect, and then we can return. And then we also need to collect some Timery as an offering to the Oracle. Upon our return, we speak to the Oracle, who tells us that we need to do ship combat first. We do that real quick, we come back, and the Oracle tells us that Argos is deep within darkness and she needs the Mirror of Apollo and the sacred water in Ilios. So the next few quests, a few hours of the game, is us essentially preparing and doing the Battle of Troy. Like the wooden horse, we basically build a wooden mouse to invade Troy and do a siege. We recruit General Eagles by creating a big feast and making some music for him that he loves, and we basically we gout him into joining the cause because he had a rivalry with Eaglemonon and didn't want to join the fight. And then to help them recover the golden egg, we needed to get a poet from the vultures. So we need to get the materials for the wooden mouse to invade Troy, and we go and collect that. We build the mouse and then assault the palace. And while we're assaulting it, we finally collect the water and return to the Oracle. The Oracle tells us that she sees Argos holding doors, but the doors are hidden and suggests that we venture beneath to speak to the serpent seers. Now the guard of the seers tells us that we need to sacrifice the memories of our first 5 years of life, which we accept and enter. The serpents answer with, "Where's Theseus?" which marks our next target, and we go to speak to Hocrates. Hawk tells us to go to the High Temple and ask a priest of Zeus. The priest tells us of the Minotaur and how Theseus led a party to fight it, but they never returned. The priest tells us to seek out Knossos, home of the labyrinth, as well as Daedalus, the inventor of the maze. It is from him that we'll get a key to enter the labyrinth and see what's going on with Theseus and the Minotaur. We land on Knossos, fighting a bunch of vultures and making our way to the gates. We go under, we fight some skeletons, some scorpions, some manticores, some serpents, and then we're under Knossos to find Argos. And what is he doing? He is holding the doors. It's interesting to note that the serpents were there under Knossos to find the Minotaur because of Troy. Because we sieged Troy and we're fighting a bunch of them, they wanted to get back at us and back at the Eagles by releasing the Minotaur upon the lands of Aquila. So Argos tells us that he was part of the squad led by Theseus, and now he's holding back the Minotaur with them still inside. And he tells us to find Hercules first, and Hercules is a Buccaneer companion that every class gets. There's also a new promotion for him as well that I decided to do the boss fight for, and I did a little review on that. And he also tells us that he needs a chain that's strong enough to hold the doors together. Argos tells us that Hercules was doing something for the Emperor, so that's probably our best bet to find a lead. We can't get audience with the Emperor without becoming a citizen, and we need a sponsor to do so. So we have to go through this process to get a sponsor. And first we ask Socrates, who tells us to speak to Crassius, who will help us if we help him with a little thing first. And this is where we collect some incense off the birds in Aquila, and then recover a few relics from a nearby dungeon. And then we can get our sponsorship and then our citizenship. So we actually do get audience with the Emperor, and he tells us about Hercules' whereabouts. He doesn't really know and tells us to speak to Pandion the poet, who tells us to venture to the Isle of Talos. On Talos, we find Hercules searching for his belt, and we fight a bunch of Colossi and eventually find his belt in the temple of Hephaestus. And we can't enter the temple until we fight more Colossi and get their belts, and then put the belts in the door, and then we open the door, we fight more Colossi, and then we get his belt back. Hercules agrees to come with us, and we're off back to Argos. Hawk is a little bit brash and wants to fight the Minotaur, but we hold him back, and we enter the dungeon of the Minotaur. We fight the three sons. We fight them quite a bit. We fight each one once, and then once we're leaving the dungeon, we fight them all at once. And it's at the end of the dungeon that we trap the Minotaur underground with a gong. And we are able to make our escape and then find a chain that can hold the doors together. So Argos tells us that the Hydra and the chain around the neck of the Hydra is the only chain worthy enough of holding the doors of the Minotaur. And he says that he can unbind it, but we must consult the Oracle on how to beat the Hydra. And the same gatekeeper of the Oracle tells us that we need another offering. And in this instance, it is beaks from the nearby sky squids. So we collect those beaks, and then we return to the Oracle, and she tells us that we can temporarily subdue the Hydra by defeating the Ebon Head, and then kill it by using the Sacred Flame. So we speak to a high priest in Nova Aquila to obtain a firebrand for the Sacred Flame, and he tells us that he'll help us if we rid him of a problem with the serpents in Ilios. So we go do all that, a bunch of, yada yada, collecting defeats, and then with the firebrand in hand, we go to the Hydra cave and fight the Ebon Head. If you're curious, in my run, I actually did it flawlessly. I didn't lose a single companion, which I was honestly pretty proud of for doing it on a privateer. I didn't think that I'd be able to flawless it, but, I did. We collect the chain and return to Knossos. We finally get down to business with Argos, and Theseus, who we found in the maze of the Minotaur when we first went in, tells that he's gonna, go home and do his thing. And Argos says that we can sail to his home in Inoculum, and this is where Hercules joins us. We land in Inoculum, and Argos' cousin Polyphemus says that Ulysses attacked and fled, but he was able to wreck their ship, so there are some still stranded on the island, and they stole the map piece. Allegedly, they stole the map piece. So we go into a nearby cave on the island where we're ambushed by them until we fend them off, and they tell us that, they don't have the map piece, and Ulysses went off without them. And one of the soldiers tells us that Ulysses is on his way to Ithaca through Lastragon, so we make way, and we also recruit Argos as a privateer. And, he's not awful. He gets Relent Bladestorm in a guaranteed epic. If he gets a promotion or a rework, he could be really, really cool, which I would definitely think is a good thing for a companion like this. So we land at Lastragon and speak to a soldier that's just chilling on the docks, who tells us that they were making a stop to get some supplies, but they were attacked by the trolls. So we go to fight them a little bit to get some information, and we learn that the chieftain captured them, so we go all the way to his cave. We fight a bunch of trolls and then free the eagles that were trapped. One of the newly freed eagles tells us that Ulysses will be passing by Anthemusa, which is home of the Sirens. And this same eagle, Elpenor, gives us some wax for our ears to not get swayed as we land on the island. The Sirens tell us that they were blessed with irresistible voices, but a cure can be made from various ingredients. So we go make that cure, create it, and then return to the Sirens. The Sirens affirm that Ulysses is going through the dreaded passage to reach Ithaca, and we must tail him. We enter the passage and fight the huge Scylla, a four-headed beast, and then make our way to Ithaca. We land on Ithaca and look around for Ulysses when we're met with a dude who says that the suitors took over the grounds and Ulysses hasn't been seen. And we see a shepherd off in the distance looking a little sheepish and suspicious, so we go to ask him, and he tells us that Ulysses is hiding in a cave nearby. We go into that cave and we talk to Ulysses, who says that he has the map piece and will give it to us if we help him take back his home. He says he needs his bow, which was taken during the Battle of Troy and offered to Medusa. So we return to Daedalus, who tells us that we need special apples to fight Medusa, and it's Medea who holds them. We go to fight Medea, but she curses us, and Old Scratch is like really scared of this curse and says that she's all powerful. So we need to basically appease her and do what she wants so that we can get her apples to fight Medusa. Luckily for us, all Medea wants us to do to appease her and lift the curse is to fight Medusa and take back someone that she turned to stone. So we fight Medusa, we take the statue, and if you're curious, it's of Nigel Weathersfield, which I believe has some relation to Arthur Weathersfield of Wizard101, that balance trainer. So we beat Medusa, take the statue back to Medea, who lifts the curse and gives us the bow, so we can give the bow to Ulysses so we can help him take his home back so that we can get the map piece. We ambush the suitors and win, obviously, and speak to Ulysses. He gives us the map piece, and then Bonnie Ann sees the stone nearby in his room with a bunch of markings on it. She recognizes that the runes on the Rosetta Stone are the same as the runes that are on the clockwork birds in Valencia. And Ulysses, for some reason, just lets us take it to Marleybone for translation. So we're back in Marleybone, and we take it to the Admiralty, who tells us to take it to Mycroft, who tells us to take it to Professor Challenger. And the professor couldn't make sense of what the Rosetta Stone says, so we need to consult Meowiarty. And Meowiarty, you know, in Wizard 101, he's a little bit of a goof and gaff. He's the villain of the world, but in Pirate 101, he has this aura about him that's very scary. It's very purposeful where he's at in what time. So he's in prison, but he's there because he wants to be there because of the war going on. And he reads us like a book. He knows that we're a pirate sent from Mycroft. He decodes the message fairly easily and tells us that it's a classical Aquilan epic, but some of the words are incorrect. And taking out the letters from the wrong words spells out a message. I know how to defeat Cain. Find me in Valencia. Seek Cagliostro. Signed, G. We return to Mycroft, who says that we'll need to sneak back into Valencia, and Capbeard suggests that Avery could give us a plan. And that is the entirety of Aquila. It is a mouthful to get through all the names and the locations and what happens. But, you know, the basic story of it is pretty fun. It's cool. We fight a bunch of mythical monsters, and we get a map piece out of it. And then now we are on to book 15, the final book, Valencia Part 2, which was not the original ending for the game, but they just put it out. And, you know, it's a little sloppy. It's not the best, but, you know, it's what we got. So I will see you guys next time.